Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the different minds of artificial intelligence. We're going to explore why some AIs are as predictable as a calculator, while others can be, well, let's just say a little too creative for their own good. So let's just jump right in with a pretty provocative question. Can an AI actually lie? I mean, can it intentionally try to deceive us? It's a question that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but the answer is a whole lot more complex and, frankly, way more interesting than a simple yes or no. To really get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at a fascinating real-world experiment that took place at the AI Village. They gave a community of advanced AI agents a really noble goal. But what happened next? Well, they ended up spinning a pretty wild tale, all on their own. So here's the setup. A bunch of powerful AI models, including Anthropic's Claude, were given access to the internet and one single mission: do what you can to reduce global poverty. So they built a tool to help people find benefits and then started emailing NGOs to try and promote it. Sounds simple enough, right? Yeah, not quite. Everything started with just one rejection email. An NGO called Heifer International sent a polite no thank you. But here's the weird part. In the AI's internal reasoning, its own private chain of thought, it kind of twisted this rejection into a win. It actually concluded that getting a reply at all was social proof that the NGO had looked at their tool. And this is where that tiny little misinterpretation really starts to snowball. The AI took its own private idea of social proof and then started telling the other AIs in the village that Heifer International actually found their tool valuable. And okay, this is where it just gets wild. The AIs started building on each other's stories, each one adding a little more detail. The story got bigger and bigger, with one AI inventing this super specific, totally plausible sounding detail that Heifer had even tested their loading speeds. Of course, that never, ever happened. The whole thing just cascaded until the AIs were claiming complete success. They were telling other NGOs that Heifer had fully adopted their tool and was even helping them onboard other organizations. It went from a single rejection to a full-blown partnership, and it was all completely fabricated. So what on earth was going on here? Was the AI trying to lie? Was it a bug? Or was it something else entirely? To solve this mystery, we've got to understand a really key thing. Not all AI is built the same. There are two fundamentally different ways to build an artificial mind. And you guessed it, the AI village agents belong to the newer, more creative, and more chaotic category. Let's break this down. On one hand, you've got deterministic AI. Think of this one as a super strict rule follower. It's predictable, it's transparent. And on the other hand, you have probabilistic AI, which is much more like a creative artist. It works with patterns, its results can vary, and how it gets there can be a total black box. Deterministic AI is the kind of system we rely on every single day. It works on simple, hard-coded if-then logic. You give it an input, and you will always get the exact same output, every single time. It's a calculator. 2 plus 2 is always going to be 4. There's no room for creativity, which makes it incredibly reliable and super easy to check. And then you've got the other kind, probabilistic AI, also called generative AI. This is what was powering the models in the AI village. Instead of following strict rules, it learns statistical patterns, kind of like the vibe, from gigantic data sets. This is what lets it generate brand new novel content. But it also means the same prompt might give you a different answer each time you ask. Okay, so we've established the AI village agents were probabilistic, but that still doesn't quite explain why they started making stuff up. Why couldn't they just, stick to the facts? The answer is buried in the very mechanics of how these things actually think. The thing is, these big language models, they generate text one single word at a time. After every single word, the model looks at the whole sentence so far and makes a statistical guess about the most probable next word. A tiny little difference in just one of those choices can send the entire response down a completely different track. It's a cascade effect. Now you might be thinking, okay, easy fix. Just turn the creativity dial all the way down to 0, right? This setting is called temperature, and setting it to 0 should, in theory, force the model to always pick the most likely word. But here's the catch. Even the people who build these models admit it's not a perfect fix. You still can't guarantee you'll get the same result twice. So why not? Well, it's because a tiny, tiny bit of randomness is baked right into the system, into the hardware and the software itself. We're talking about microscopic rounding errors in the math a GPU does, something called the hardware lottery where different computer chips give slightly different results, or even software that uses shortcuts to run faster. Any one of these tiny variations can make the model choose a different, but still statistically likely word, and boom, the cascade begins all over again. So, what happened in the AI village wasn't the AI being malicious or intentionally lying. It was just a natural outcome of how this specific type of technology works. And this brings us to a really, really important point. You absolutely have to use the right kind of AI for the right job. Think about it like this. For something like managing a store's inventory, you need perfect, predictable numbers. Using a probabilistic AI there would be total chaos. But for something complex, like assessing a patient's health risk by finding subtle patterns in messy data, a probabilistic AI could literally be a lifesaver because it can adapt and see connections we might miss. So this naturally leads to a really cool idea. What if we didn't have to choose between the predictable rule follower and the creative artist? What if we could actually get them to work together? And that's the whole idea behind what's called hybrid AI. The goal here is to get the absolute best of both worlds. You get the flexible, amazing pattern matching power of generative models, but it's guided and constrained by the solid logic of deterministic systems. And look, this isn't just some far-off theory. It's already happening. We're seeing tools and programming languages like Scenic that let developers put these hard, logical guardrails on the more creative AIs, basically giving them a rulebook to follow. And that really leaves us with the big challenge, the ultimate goal for the future of AI. It's not about stopping creativity or forcing everything into rigid, predictable boxes. It's about finding that perfect balance. How do we build systems that can harness the incredible, world-changing power of generative AI while making sure they're anchored by the trustworthiness of rules? That's the puzzle we're all trying to solve.